Dubai is often a symbol of wealth, and with wealth come nice toys. I personally love watch collecting. With us today, we have Dean Bramley, the founder of Bramley Luxury Goods. Dean, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for having us, George.
We've known each other for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's no secret that you're my go-to guy for most of my watches.
Yes.
We met
sure
many years ago. So Dean, tell me a bit about yourself, about who you are, where you were born, how did you come to this point today where you're in Dubai dealing watches?
Well, so from the UK originally. So I lived all my life there up until until 2006. I left the UK.
Whereabouts?
Stoke-on-Trent.
Okay.
Famously known. Okay, if you ask the previous generation, known for the potteries.
Yeah.
So
nice.
All the famous Wedgwood and stuff like that. But then most recently, Robbie Williams.
Is he from there?
He's from Stoke-on-Trent. So that's the
to
claim
fame. That puts you on the map.
Yeah,
that
puts us on the map.
you on the map. So you grew up there?
So I grew up there. Local school from a council estate originally. And yeah, that was my life growing up. Very keen sort of footballer, sports as I was growing up.
You were into your sports, were you?
Yeah, into my sports. And at a very young age, I fell in love with automotive cars. You know, like every young boy does. The Ferraris on the.
So that's what I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you, when did you get that luxury, the taste for luxury? And
I don't think it was luxury at that stage. It was more really
muscle cars.
Cars and you know the thought of that car, you know, on the wall, and that's really how it all started for me. So when I finished school in '99. I then went on to do an apprentice technician for automotive.
So you really like the mechanics of
it?
Yeah.
It was a hardcore passion of mine. It was a dream from a young age to be working with cars, to be into cars.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was my life from '99 up until 2017.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
So it was my life that took me. So basically, in 2006, I'd done my apprenticeship with automotive. I worked through cars, and I got to a stage where I said to myself, Dean, you need to go out. You need to look somewhere else. You need to get out of the UK. It's the same.
Why did you say that?
I think in general, I just saw a lot more out there.
Because it's not typical for sorry to say this, a white boy from the middle of England to say, let me go to Dubai, or
it wasn't Dubai. So what it was is, you were going to work, it was the same old, and I absolutely loved my job back then. I used to love getting up, love going to work.
Were you a mechanic for general cars, or was it luxury cars, or supercars?
I was a technician for Volkswagen at that time.
All right.
And even at that time, you can see where the luxury comes from, because even at that time, I had a very close friend of mine that I grew up with at school. Actually, his dad worked with my dad back in the day, and we got the same job. So he got the Audi apprenticeship, and I got the Volkswagen.
You got the
and he probably doesn't know this, but until now, I'd always dreamt of having his role at Audi, with it being more luxury. So I suppose, you could say that's where the luxury started.
Okay, so you did your apprenticeship and you worked with Volkswagen until what year?
Until in the UK until 2006.
Okay,
and then, as I was saying, I really said to myself, there's a little bit more out there. You were driving to work at the same time, you were coming home at the same time. It was just, it was a ground. But you have to bear in mind, like, I was a mummy's boy. So, although I moved out early, it was over to my mum's every day, over to my dad's every day. And it was very strange for Dean Bramley to be thinking, right, let's go.
Yeah.
Not with my friends or
and what's the moment that made you go? Because at some point you say, you know what, I'm doing it.
Yeah, the moment I go is I saw a lot about Australia, and I always thought to myself, right, Dean, you need to go. You need to do it. And then I never forget, I had my own house at that time, and I said to myself, you know what, Dean, let's just book a flight. And I remember sitting on the couch and saying, right, let's go. And bear in mind, like I say, I hadn't been out of Stoke-on-Trent, really.
Yeah.
It's
fantastic. This is amazing.
A big thing for me.
Single at the time?
Yeah, single at the time. Recently split up from a long-term relationship. I think that's also what sort of drove me.
Yeah.
Because I was very much stuck in that, and then like the whole world opened. So that was it. I booked my flight.
And you went to Australia.
I went to Australia, but before I could get there, my mother had said to my dad, "He's not going alone, Dean. You need to go with him." So off me and my dad went to Australia. Oh, wow. He was there for a couple of weeks with me, and as I got there, it wasn't me trying to escape work. As soon as I got there, within one day, I'd landed a job as a Volkswagen technician in Sydney, Australia. And yeah, that's how it started. But then I was young, you were enjoying yourself, you were working, partying at the weekend.
Money in, money out.
Yeah, it was very
no responsibilities.
But when it come to work, I've always been, the grafter. Yeah. I've always put the work in.
You are a hard worker, I must say, from my experience with you. Okay, so Volkswagen in Sydney.
Yeah.
A couple of years.
Yeah. No, it wasn't even that. It was 9 months.
9 months.
9 months, and then the story. I mean, if we move on very quickly, how I got to Dubai, which was very shortly after I arrived in Sydney. Sort of. I arrived in Sydney. I think it was December time, and by the following May. I was out on a road test in a car with a very good friend of mine, a technician, and he got a phone call from somebody from the Audi head office in Dubai, offering him a job. And he was a great guy, but he got a young kid, and he said, "Listen, I'm not interested, but I've got someone in the car with me who might be interested." So you cannot imagine it was just a fluke.
It's most of the time it's
Dubai
like that.
For me back then was never on a radar. I didn't know Dubai.
Yeah.
I didn't know anyone who'd come to Dubai. Didn't know Dubai.
It wasn't as popular as it is today. Yeah.
So I decided let's go for it. So I flew over.
And they accepted for you to replace him on the job.
Yeah. Well, the interview process was coming, but I flew over. On the way back to the UK, I thought I'd chance it. We'll stay a week and we'll see. And we landed, and the job was pretty much secure there. And then we had 20 minutes in the office, and it was.
And they said,
let's go. Go."
So you actually worked for Audi here?
Yeah. So I worked for Audi Volkswagen Middle East, the head office here, for 4 years.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And that's when you sort of get the taste of luxury, because then you have the Audi brand, you understand the premium, the clients, and I was at that stage, I was very much technical orientated position for them. Yeah. So it was visiting the whole Middle East, Jordan, Syria. You were spending time with clients, trying to fix issues on the car, and you saw that other side that a lad from Stoke-on-Trent would never see.
Yeah, you saw the wealth, you saw. And so interesting. So your first exposure to luxury was basically cars.
Yeah.
Which is most of what happens with young boys or young lads. Yeah. All right. And where did you so you're in that phase of your life where you're having a great time, you're working with Audi, money's coming in on a regular basis. Yeah. At what point, or what is it that the click that happened where you say, "You know what? I want to do my own thing"? Regardless of what it was yet, but I want to, when did you start? Well, you were telling me you see people and you see the wealth and all that. You start saying, I don't want to stay on a salary all my life, but...
I think we can just step it back a little bit, because there's 2 more countries involved until I got back to Dubai the second time.
Wow. Okay.
So, I saw that luxury, but me, since a very young age, I always got bored very quickly and always wanted more. And that I think will come back in a bit later on in the story, but... always wanted more. So, after 2 promotions within Audi Volkswagen Middle East, I then got a job offer over in Taiwan.
Okay.
And maybe you have to step back. 1 week when I arrived in Dubai, I met my now, which is my beautiful wife, after 1 week arriving, first
in
time
Dubai,
in Dubai, we built a massive relationship. We had our first daughter probably a little bit too early. It was 9 months into the relationship.
Oh, wow. You didn't mess around?
No, didn't mess around, but you're a young boy then, so you didn't need to, did you? And, at that stage, I'd gone from myself, free, to obviously bringing up a little girl, which is Tia, my eldest daughter.
Fantastic.
And then, I was getting very bored at that time, and my focus was always work. And I got a job opportunity in Taiwan.
So off you went to Taiwan?
Yeah, off we went. The wife, Kathy, wasn't really happy at that stage. She loved Dubai. She'd been here since 2000. So it was a big part of her adult life. And then we moved to Taiwan, exactly the same position. So with Audi, with luxury, and then you start to see a little bit more because Taiwan, very small region, a lot more luxury. If you've got an Audi, depending on what Audi in Taiwan, you normally got a lot of nice luxury goods to go with it.
A lot of toys with it, yeah.
And then after that, again, it was the same situation. It was a couple-year contract. We actually got moved, or I got a job position offer over in Australia.
Back to Australia?
Yeah, back to Australia. We arrived in Australia. I was very much involved with Volkswagen at that stage as well. We had our second little girl in Australia. But we just couldn't call it home, unfortunately, for a family. And there was a big opportunity for me to come back to Dubai, leading into...
Also with in the car industry?
Yeah, in the car industry, but then we move into real luxury car industry. So wife wanted to come back. We moved back to Dubai, and we ended up settling on a position here with Bentley, Bugatti and McLaren.
Wow.
So...
Happy wife, happy life?
Yeah, happy wife, happy life. She was back in Dubai, but... That was the first time really I'd worked for a local business. So it was a bit...
Very different.
Yeah, it was an eye-opener for me. And I suppose my first real step into what Dubai is like.
That's interesting. So what for you, who has worked a long time with a foreign entity, or call it, a foreign entity and a local business, what is the major difference between the two?
Oh, the major difference is processes, I believe.
Yeah.
With the foreign entity, you're driven, especially Audi, Volkswagen, or that brand, you're
Global
driven
processes.
by processes, global processes. There's a process for everything. It's from my experience, and we have to bear in mind my experience with a local company here is a couple of years.
Yeah.
So,
but especially working with the Germans, I mean, everything's systematic.
Everything's systematic. You know what you're doing. You know what you're getting. There's no questions.
Okay, so how did you switch from cars to watches? And I mean, everything must have happened at the same time. You said, you know what, I'm going to do my own thing. I probably need a lot of, I would imagine I need a lot of cash to trade cars. Let me do watches. Is that kind of the story? How it went?
No, it's a quite different story actually. And it was it's probably one of the lowest parts of my whole career.
Interesting.
Because I've been through my whole career always not being big-headed, but always at the top of that segment, always delivering the deliverables, what the business wants you to, always great performance. And I actually got let go from the business here.
Wow.
The local business here. Now, that was probably, looking back at it, that was probably me trying to put my previous corporate experience with multinationals into place, probably a little bit too strong at that stage. And I actually got let go.
Trying to shoehorn it in.
Yeah, and it was a light bulb moment for me, because all of a sudden one day I had a gig, and the next day I didn't. I had a wife, 2 kids, rent to pay.
Very little savings.
So, savings, good savings, but that savings, you know what Dubai is like. That savings soon
melts
goes.
away very quickly.
You know, you have rent, you have kids. You have
what year was
schooling.
this?
This was 2017, late 2016, 2017. Yeah.
8-9 years ago.
Yeah.
So you let go. All of a sudden you're jobless. Your first reflex would be to look for another car job.
Because I didn't know anything else. You know, it was me. All I knew was cars. You know, all I knew was the automotive industry. So then it was me going out looking for positions, and I was going the whole Middle East, Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, to have a look for positions here, just because you're in that sort of survival mode at that stage.
And you're competing, I guess, with a lot cheaper people, right?
Yeah,
cheaper salaries. I mean,
I think the position I was going for, they were looking for individuals with corporate experience, so it was slightly different. Right. But what I realised was, I was a little bit tired of it. You know, I was going to interviews, and
the motivation wasn't really there.
The motivation wasn't there, but I had to dig deep because I needed a position. Yeah. And then I don't know when it was. I can't really explain it. I just said to myself, you know what, Dean, let's do something different. You know, the interviews were happening, that we were getting to the final stages. I wasn't happy, or they weren't happy. It was a combination. And I said, you know what, I'm
not even happy with all this process.
Yeah, let's just dig deep, let's go. And then I suppose I never knew I had it in me. I just suppose what come out of me was, right, let's get to dealing, Dean. So I did a little bit with.
Did you know anything about watches? Did you?
Nothing,
Really?
And you'll I understood luxury because of my
Background,
past business or where I was. I gained many connections through Bentley, Bugatti, and McLaren, and I saw that side of it. And it really wasn't the luxury watches what started then. It was me deciding to.
And back then, the market wasn't like it is now. I mean, the market
totally
started now in COVID, if I remember correctly.
The market where everyone come into, or the watch industry, the luxury industry in general, really kicked off in COVID. But back then, I started. We're talking about a lot of automotive here, but I did a little bit of parts trading. I was bringing Bentley, McLaren parts from the UK,
wheeling, dealing,
and trying to survive. But then. Then I realised that this is not you, Dean, and then what happened was I brought a couple of watches from friends or past acquaintances, and I started to trade them.
Flip them,
I started to flip them. I never forget, I was in the UK on a parts hunting trip. I was sitting on my mum and dad's sofa, and I'd got a blank pan 50 fathoms then. A 2006 one.
From a friend.
Yeah, and I put in Google, sell my watch Stoke-on-Trent. And there was no one really around, and then this one individual come up who was based in Bolton, and his advert read, based in Bolton Stadium where the football's from, a little town in the north of England, and we'll buy your watch. And when I made the phone call, it come across very much, we're based in the hotel, you can come up anytime. So I drove up, and we did the deal, and I'm glad to say that
you made money on that watch.
And that was my first sort of launch in. And until this day, he's always been a good trader of mine. We deal a lot in the UK together, and until this day, that's what really kicked me off into watches.
And when did you realize that, hold on, I can make a living out of this? And you said, you know what, let me create Bramley's or whatever it was called at the time. And I'm going to actually make a living out of this.
I think when I saw that profit of that first watch, I said to myself, you know what, Dean, it's nice. You get a nice feeling out of it. You get a nice feeling.
It's a kick.
Yeah, we'll talk about it, but you get a nice feeling when you put a watch on. And for me, I get really excited when I buy an item.
Yeah.
I get really excited when I see someone's face put it on the wrist.
Do you get more, and this is what people don't realize, do you get more excited when you get a good deal on buying an item or when you get a good deal on selling an item? Buying.
For me, it's buying. Yeah. And not only that, because, I'll give you a prime example. The past couple of days, we've had some really nice pieces come in. I love the buying process. When I get my hands on them, I get super excited thinking, right, who's this for? Who can this go to? That's an excitement. Who are my clients
who like this?
And then when you see that on them, it's another
it's happened
excitement.
That you've called me and said, look, I just got this and this is right up your alley, and I bought it or something like that. So I guess knowing your client's super important. We'll get at that. We'll get to that in a second. All right, so you started off, I remember when I met you, you had this little office in Business Bay.
Yeah.
You had a trade license with us at Virtue Zone, I remember. And I can't recall how I found you. You must have put an ad somewhere or something. And I called you to come see, if I remember correctly, it was an AP. It was an AP offshore or an old AP offshore.
I can't remember. I remember you walking in the office to this day.
Yeah. And you had your 3-4 suitcases of watches and you'd open them. And I liked you right away because I thought you were very honest. This to me, and Dean, I've always told you this, it is one of the most important things. The fact that you say it as it is, and I deal with a lot of watch dealers, as you know, doesn't make it makes you unhappy, but it's just reality. You got to live with it, buddy. Your honesty has always been something that I've appreciated a lot. If something has a problem, you tell me, George, this one has a problem. If something is overpriced, you tell me, George, I have to sell it at this price, but I think it's overpriced. And this I've always appreciated in you, the straight shooting. As you know, I'm a commercial guy, so I always want to win. I always want to win in trades and so on. But with you, I kind of understand the art of watch trading, and I have to be fair and give you your piece of the action. That's why I hate selling to you, because or when I get rid of watches, because you need to make money on those watches, and to make money, you got to sell them less. You got to buy them less than I would want to sell them. But with time, I've understood this process, because on the flip side of it, I've bought watches from you that are much better deal than I would buy from somebody else. So you win some, you lose some. what I wanted to ask you with regards to Bramley's and the watch trading business, what's the hardest thing about working in a category where transactions are high value? Is it cash flow management? Is it that it requires a lot of cash? Is it do you feel like every transaction is a risk, or how?
No, I don't. I think it's the cash flow.
Yeah.
In this industry, in this business, the end of the day, if you're not buying, you're not selling, or you haven't got the item available. And if you're not buying it, someone else is going to buy it.
Yeah.
So as I say to many people, I spend a lot of my time running around getting funds, gaining funds, because you never know what's going to come the next day. You know, you can happily have $1 million dirhams sitting in the bank account, but that's soon gone. And then the day after, before you've replaced it, there's more deals.
Yeah.
And I really like to I think that's the most difficult part of the industry, I believe.
What would you say? This podcast is called Real Talk, right?
Yeah,
so I want to kind of put you on the spot here a bit, and we want to share with our viewers things that you wouldn't go out on the street advertising. What has been your most costly mistake or your most expensive mistake?
Okay, when I first started,
of course, it would
trust
be then.
is my most costly mistake, and that's simple.
You trusted everyone.
Yeah, and it's still a negative part of me right now. I go all in.
Yeah.
If I like someone personally, privately,
I'm the same as you.
I go all in.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you got two types of people. You got the people that trust off the bat until you mess around and then they don't trust you, and you got the people where you have to earn their trust. I'm the first type. I trust you until you prove me wrong.
And it's
a double-edged sword, right?
Yeah.
It's a double-edged sword.
But you can get shut down very quickly, as I realised back in when I was doing some parts, spare parts. I got offered a couple of Rolex Submariners from Switzerland through a parts dealer that used to buy parts from me, and I used to buy parts from him. And then it was, because I trusted him within the parts game, I handed over 75,000 dirhams for 3 Rolex Submariners. There was 2, and then there was an additional one. It was 50 back then. You know, they were 25,000 a piece. Deposited the funds, and then never saw them again. So 75,000 dirhams when I was first starting off. If we go back 5 minutes from the parts, that was all my cash flow then.
Wow.
George. It was all my cash flow, because we'd from losing the position to gaining, we'd gone through all the savings, and then I had a house in the UK, we sold it, and I had a bit of cash. But at that time, it was pretty much all my cash flow.
So you never saw the watches, and the guy disappeared?
Never saw the watches. The guy still trading in Dubai, but the guy was bringing them from Switzerland, you never saw. And
he never paid you back?
He never paid me back, no.
What was his excuse?
And at that stage, you're always waiting, And at the end of the day, it was no one else's fault but mine. So back to your question, that's the...
What percentage of the clients that buy watches, and these are expensive watches, they can range anywhere from, call it $5,000 to $200,000, $300,000. What percentage of your clients do you think buy the watches because they love the object versus they want the status?
Ooh, our business is, we don't have too many true watch lovers, like you love the feel of a watch. Do we know really how it works? Do we know the complications?
No. Do I go deep into the complications? No, but I think I would know more than your average guy.
But we are catered, like Bramley's or me as an individual. I love the luxury side of it. I love how it makes you feel.
And you know every single detail about every single watch. I can call you up and ask you about any watch, and you'll tell me the difference between this and that. And
So going back to your question was. What was your question again?
My question is, what's the percentage of your clients who buy the watch for the status versus the love of that object?
I would say 70 on the status.
Really?
Because it's a difficult one, because if you think about that question, when you put a watch on, it brings you so many different things.
A lot of joy.
You love it, but not only that, when you walk into a room with that watch, what you're getting on now, you feel and expect sometimes people to notice you. As a conversation starter, you have that feeling. You know, my industry, I'm lucky enough to have multiple watches. I wear multiple watches every day, not my own, but through the business, I wear different watches, and I'm very aware of who looks at me when I've got a certain watch on and who doesn't.
And you do get looks when you wear certain watches, and I have a few watches that are head spinners and so on. You're right. I'm an object lover. I love nice, beautiful objects, right? So it could be watches, it could be a lot of different things. But it's the feeling I get when I put a certain watch on.
Yeah.
Not knowing that this watch is an expensive watch, or it's a watch that's difficult to have, or whatever it is. Knowing that it's kind of an exclusivity that I have on my wrist. That's what I love about it. It's a beautiful object and something kind of exclusive, which differentiates me from other people. That's what I like about it.
And that feeling comes with inside, you know, because I didn't grow up with luxury. I'm very lucky to have parents that we come from like I said, a council estate, but I'm very lucky to have parents that would give us what we wanted. You know, if we wanted a football kit, if we wanted a holiday, we had the parents.
We were fortunate.
But they were not wealthy parents. So I never had this experience. And the first time you start to wear luxury goods, you get that feeling, you know.
What's one myth about the luxury industry? Because you're doing a lot of luxury goods as well. You know, now. What is one myth about the luxury industry that needs to die? Like, people keep on with that myth, and it's not really true.
I think, for me, luxury is for everybody. Everybody can afford a piece of luxury, and that's what Bramley's really is created from. Because the myth is, especially in this region, in Dubai, because Dubai is a fabulous city, it's a very blingy city. When you mention Dubai, it's all glamorous. But whether it's a 1,000 dirham luxury item or a 1,000,000 dirham luxury item,
it's a luxury
that item brings joy to that individual wearing it. You know, so the myth is you don't have to be a fancy, wealthy individual to deserve luxury or to afford luxury. And I get, you know, we do luxury bags, you know, and the most common, when I try to push a luxury bag to a guy who's come in for a watch, a customer who's come in for a watch for the wife, you know, there's been multiple times where I've given away an item, you know,
You've done it with me.
for the other half. But the objection I always get is they wouldn't appreciate it.
They wouldn't
appreciate it. They don't wear luxury. They don't enjoy luxury. But people have this luxury on this pedestal, but it's not. It's how it makes you feel. If it's a 1,000, like I say.
And it's all about a feeling. I mean, luxury becomes luxury because it's marketed as luxury anyway, right? There's no reason a Birkin bag is more quality than a handmade leather bag. That's $100.
And that's what pre-owned brings you. Pre-owned or off-market brings you that accessibility for everybody to deserve a bit of luxury. You know.
All right, on the flip side, so this is the myth busted. On the flip side, what is one secret or one, I would say, unspoken truth about the luxury trading industry that traders know, dealers know, maybe seasoned traders like me would know, or seasoned buyers and sellers like me would know, but that your average Joe doesn't know?
Oh,
that's a tough one.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
And
maybe we could look at what the luxury item is really worth. You know, from a seasoned dealer, from a seasoned collector, you know what that item is really worth. And
there's a lot of intricacies to it as well. For example, a certain type of watch could be worth X, Y, or Z, but the reason is because it's very rare, not because it's a nice watch or it's a beautiful watch or it's a great mechanism. And we see it so often that amazing mechanisms, complications, all that are a lot cheaper than something that's super simple, but that's, you know, that's status, or that's rare, or that's difficult to find, or is in demand, or something like that. So I think, to help you with answering this question, the secret is that every watch has a value for a different reason and at different time. At different times, right? So you walk in, for example, I walk in to buy a Patek now. For some reason, Pateks have gone up in the last few weeks, right? Whereas the watch industry is just crashing for the last couple of years. Pateks all of a sudden decided that they were going up. Who decides how? What? The market's going up. If you're buying a Patek today versus buying a Patek 2 months ago, you're probably getting a much worse deal today than you are 2 months ago.
You are.
And you have to follow that. If you don't follow the industry, you will never be able to buy the right watch at the right place at the right price.
No, and that's it. It's coming back to what that watch is actually worth at that particular time. And you've got to understand is you're entering a market. If you're buying a watch today compared to 3 months ago, Patek, let's think about it, you're paying a lot more, maybe 20% on some models as we are sitting here today than 3 months ago. But you're entering that at, you need to understand the value of that particular item at that particular stage. And I think that's one of the hidden secrets that, unfortunately, a lot of, not dealers, but a lot of individuals take advantage of that, you know.
Well, they're traders, right? That's
yeah,
what they do.
The traders, they are traders, but, you know, we can use a prime example of, say, an old Submariner, you know, say a 1967 Submariner. You can have two 1967 Submariners. One's all original. One's has some aftermarket stuff, blah, blah, blah. Same with Patek, same with vintage Patek, vintage AP. Values are massively different. So really the secret is understanding the true value of that particular item. You know, look at brands like Omega, you know, and look at brands like Rolex, you know, whatever you can buy from the store, if you can walk in and buy that item, naturally the value's going down.
Yeah, that's for sure. You know, scarcity definitely.
If you can't buy the item, normally means the value's above.
Yeah.
So it's understanding the particular item.
Look, Dean, you and I are close enough, and I know the market enough to be able to kind of figure out. And then sometimes you quite bluntly come out and tell me how much you're making on a watch, on this watch or that watch. What are the different factors that would make you make more or less on a watch? And in general, generally speaking, for the viewers out there, how much does in terms of percentage, how much does a watch dealer make on a luxury watch? Is it 1%, 5%, 20%, 50%? How much?
Yeah, it really depends on brands, you know, and
so is the more expensive watches you make less percentage on them, or not really?
No, not at all. You make more money because the percentage is a lot. The value of the percentage is a lot higher. But when we talk about that, it's really about what's available in the market at that particular time, and who has it, and how much demand is for it. For example, Rolex, your standard sports models, you know, you're lucky if you make 5%. 5 to 10%, really? Because so many dealers have them. You know, when you're talking about Omega and stuff like that, Omega, Breitling, you can uplift 20%. So
on a 40,000-50,000 dirham watch, you'll make what, a couple of thousand?
Yeah, a couple of thousand. Yeah.
What about let's say something a lot higher, like a Patek or a Richard Mille? That's, you know, let's say a Patek that's worth 450,000.
Yeah,
How much would you make on that?
You look at 10 to 15%.
Okay.
Yeah, wow. Because normally that watch you still have one individual looking for that watch.
Yeah.
The Rolex Submariner, you have one individual looking, you have 50 dealers. The Patek, you have one individual looking, you have 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Now, the key to, and this might be a little bit of a trade secret, but the key really to buying from an individual is, if a dealer has that in stock, naturally means they own it a little bit lower than everybody else.
Yeah.
You know, how many times have you come to me and asked me, Dean, I quite like the look of this watch. I haven't got it in stock, George, but I'll find it for you.
Yeah.
And I've helped you to buy it from a different dealer.
Because
they've got it in stock, time dealer. And that's what we really have to understand. Time you've gone through 2 or 3 traders, the percentage goes up and up and up. You know.
So around COVID, luxury started becoming an investment item.
Yeah.
Right, watches. I mean, I remember I made a lot of money with my watches. Remember when I bought an apartment in Beirut? I went and sold 5 watches, and with the profit, I bought the apartment, which is ridiculous when you think about it. It's still a trend, although it's much harder now to make money with watches. I would say because the valuations are not growing as they were before. It might come back, it might not. Who knows? What do you think of this phenomenon of luxury becoming a tradable item for investment? I mean, it takes luxury away from a lot of people that want it just for the luxury.
Yeah.
Right? It brings the prices up for everyone.
Yeah.
I don't think that you particularly would be happy about the prices going up, because you're making your margins whether the price is up or the
yeah,
price is
whether
down.
the price is low.
Probably when
high.
the prices are lower, you could probably sell more than when the prices are high.
The margins are always there.
Yeah.
The only time you're gonna get stung as a dealer is if you have an amount of stock, like what happened to a lot of dealers during COVID. We lost a lot of dealers when the market crashed because they had crazy amounts of stock that owed them a lot of money, and the watches had lost 50%. So automatically they're gone. They're out of the industry. But the watches, I don't feel watches until this day now, and everyone talks about it. Watches are really not
investment item.
an investment, Watches, you've got to enjoy, you've got to love. We just spoke about 20 minutes ago about the feeling.
Yeah, I mean, these people that buy watches just put them in the safe. I find it ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, everyone to their own. We've got clients that have put watches in the safe and they haven't touched them. They've brought them back and they've made tremendous amounts of money. Okay, but then we've also had individuals that have worn them like yourself every single day, still made a ton of money. But the thing is how much joy you've got out of it. That's for me, it's not an investment. It's an investment in yourself, not in the piece.
I agree. If you had to do it all over again, what would you do differently? If I told you you can start Bramley's again tomorrow morning, what would you do differently than what you've done so far?
Well, as you know, we're just about to open our first flagship store.
Congrats, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
Where is it going to be located?
It's going to be Intercontinental Hotel, Dubai Marina, first floor. It's going to be fabulous.
Congrats. That was a long time
I'm
coming.
excited.
Time coming,
And that's exactly what I'd do a lot quicker. I'd move a lot quicker. I'd move a lot quicker. Try to build the brand a lot quicker. But Dean has always been the local dealer.
Incredible. I mean, in your car, going from person to person, you've built an amazing network of. I mean, so many of my friends have bought from you and continue to buy from you. And you've built an amazing network of clients. I think with a shop, with an actual location, you're gonna have a lot more success where you can be based there. People can come to you, and I think it'll be less tiring for you as well because you're just a machine.
Yeah, and that's one reason why we spoke about the office where we first met in downtown. And that's one reason why we've taken this time to find a shop like this, because the feeling of buying that watch is also the journey. You know what I mean? Coming to this shop and in Business Bay that time, you couldn't park, you couldn't find it. So that's why we moved. So I think in general, what I'd do is I'd try to move a little bit quicker next time.
That's a good answer.
But I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change a thing.
It's fair enough. Dean, you have 2 daughters.
Yeah.
What's the legacy you want to leave to those 2 daughters with Bramley's? If 20 years from now, when you're hopefully retired, and your daughters are sitting down and you're telling them about Bramley's, or they're telling their friends about my dad had a shop, or he has a shop which we now run, or whatever it is, it's called Bramley's. What's the legacy you would want them to talk about?
It's a little bit different. I've got a 17-year-old, I've got an 11-year-old, so it's a big difference there. The 17-year-old now is very different to what.
But she definitely has a taste for luxury. She
she
rides horses, right? So
that's the young one. That's the young one.
Yeah.
But the older one does, because she gets a feeling out of it anyway. But
it's around the house.
The Bramley family is not a luxury family. You know, we believe in luxury. We love luxury, but you won't find us eating in fancy restaurants. We live and breathe what I try to sell. So the legacy is really allowing the kids, giving the kids the opportunity to do what they want. And them saying, oh, Bramley's shop helped us to do that.
So my dad was blue collar, and he went into the. Would you consider yourself being blue collar?
Yeah, 100%. My dad was down the mines when he was a kid.
And now you're dealing in luxury goods, which shows you that the broad spectrum of things that you can do in life, and do them well. Last question before we close this. And we've kind of touched on it before. What's one unfiltered truth about the luxury market in Dubai that almost no one dares to say out loud?
Luxury market in general, there's a lot of, how can I say this? It's
unfiltered.
A lot of dirty people out there in the industry. You've really, and that's not buying from me. There is thousands of
good people,
reputable, very good people out there, but there is a lot.
Have you seen a lot? You've seen a lot of scammers, a lot
every day,
no conscious.
Every day, we only have to talk about small things about you buying a watch that's dated 2025, but it's actually dated 2021.
And you see it all the time.
We see it every day, George.
Wow.
So
it's that.
Yeah,
that
it's
common.
that. So you've really got to, when you're buying a luxury item, you buy from somebody you can take it back to in 2, 3, 4 years.
And that's why I love buying.
And that's
from
the
you.
only advice
Dean,
I've got.
thank you so much for sharing
Thank
all
you
these
very much,
insights.
George.
Thanks, it was really fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you got a look at the other side of the medal and at the insights of the industry. Thank you very much.